I'm Dennis Hinkamp. I'm the multimedia specialist for Utah State University Extension and for the College of Agriculture. This little webinar was originally presented at the ACE meeting in Scottsdale, although we had some technical difficulties, so I thought I'd record it so I can distribute it again. So putting drones to work. This was at the ACE conference, and so just to show proof of concept, I went out that afternoon and took a little video of our conference site. The interesting thing about this conference site is actually in a no-fly zone, but because I have my FAA 107 license, I was able to quickly ask for permission, and they granted it to me right through the DJI app. So this is a picture of me with just a few of my gadgets. I've always loved gadgets, and when I first got into the drones, it was mainly just for photography because there's so many things you can do. Just taking pretty pictures. And just another pretty picture of Aspen at sunset. The other thing that's cool to do with drones is just get a architectural perspective that you wouldn't get otherwise. This is our College of Agriculture building on the left, and then the business building on the right. Kind of really see some different aspects of it, from different angles. Pretty pictures of campus. That's a lot of what I do, is just take pictures for tours of campus. But some more practical things you can do is use drones for maintenance. This is 30 acres of tomatoes on glass near Nephi, Utah, and it'd be a great way to inspect the roof and the solar panels. Another thing that I've used it for was I went to the Bonneville Salt Flats for the famous Speed Week. You've probably heard about the Salt Flats, and that's me, the little dot there. It gives you really a perspective that you'd never get from any other angle. And you can create aerial messages. I've been doing this for the 4-H Club for the last few years, and create this little video. And bonus points if you can guess how I did that. Of course, I can never get 200 kids to run to a spot in sequence, so actually we set them up in the spot and then had them run away from the Clover outline, and I reversed it in post-production. And of course, can't do as much with drones in the winter, and winters in Utah are kind of long, so I get creative and create a few alien messages. Merry Christmas, that was probably the hardest one because I had to make 3 circles. And if you've ever wondered how they make crop circles, I learned how is you put a stake in the middle of the circle and a rope and walk around. And lastly, happy holidays card. That's again the College of Agriculture. I've done a couple little things for athletics. This is Merlin Olsen, if you don't recognize him, and flying in. Again, this is just really nice cinematic footage, for I don't know, $1,200, something that you would have had to pay thousands for not that long ago with jibs and airplanes and helicopters and who knows what. But of course, we're in the selfie age, and so if you have a drone and yourself, you can have a Dronie, or you can have a Dronie of itself. Here's a reminder to always let go of your drone before you take off. Actually, I have no idea how I captured this shot. I just had the camera on automatic, and it must have caught me when I was moving. So the next thing I started to get into is, everybody has a drone now, and so pictures are getting ubiquitous. I watch TV and all I see is drone shots anymore. So kind of move into some more practical uses of drones, and one of those is mapping. I got the idea from one of our lead specialists who was trying to do mapping, riding a mountain bike with two stabilized GoPros stuck to a helmet. Well, it's a unique perspective, but something you do much easier with a drone. One of the things we're looking at is with our landscape design program is being able to get a quick look at what people's yards and landscapes and even whole neighborhoods look like to help in the design process. Real-time mapping and measurement is another thing that you can do pretty easily with drones. There's a software that I have called Drone Deploy, which I'll talk a little bit more about later. But then again, this is a stitched map of about 150 photos of a little greenhouse area we have here on campus. It's, again, just another kind of perspective of it. You can actually go in and measure volume in the software. You stake out these points and it'll tell you exactly how many acres or square feet that particular area is. Kind of useful for planning gardens and large scale agriculture. And it also kind of does limited 3D modeling. Again, this is a pretty amazing little model that was stitched from those 150 photos, again in Drone Deploy. It's kind of interesting for tours of campus or just deciding how the construction is going in an area. You can also do NDVI and infrared with the cameras. I'm not going to pretend to know exactly how NDVI works, but we do know that plants, reflect different wavelengths of light, and then that layout can be used to show plant health or disease. An interesting thing someone is trying out in Arizona is pollinating using drones. Before, they were pollinating these date palms by actually getting a big blower and just blowing the pollen up into the air over the trees. But then they tried hanging the pollen in little bags underneath a drone and then letting the drone wash spread the pollen. Agriculture is looking at it too. Animal agriculture is kind of a new use for drones, but we have a couple people on campus who are trying this out. It's good for animal counts, and some people are using them for bird counts. There's some theory, at least, that if you use an infrared camera, you could tell when cattle are coming into heat, or if you're looking for them at night, the infrared would come in handy, although technically it's illegal to fly at night. So what's the future of drones? Are we going to be taken over by robots? I don't know. I'll just make my little prediction here that the pizza and Amazon delivery is kind of a gimmick just to get people to think about it. I don't really think there's going to be large scale deliveries of Amazon products, because just think about how difficult it would be to get around the trees and driveway and everything around most houses. I think the practicality of it would be almost impossible to do, or you'd have to go to someplace else to pick up the product. I think what's more likely is small robotic vans or carts are just going to bring stuff to your door. me, the big future in drones is just bigger unmanned vehicles. You know, there's all this controversy of drones getting in the way of firefighting planes. Well, that's true, and we should be aware of that. But why not have the firefighting planes themselves be automatically flown from the ground? And it sure would save a lot of danger. Same way with crop dusting, probably the most dangerous occupation in the United States. But if you could do it with larger drones like this large Yamaha helicopter, could save a lot of lives and money for agriculture. Getting back to the drone deploy again, it's since part of my grant with ACE was to look at different mapping systems. Again, you can, this is one of our turf farms that I've done regular flyovers of, and you can get precise areas once you've done the mapping just by drawing a line around it. Just another showing distance to, and by looking at the points on top of the screen, you can tell how many feet that was. So how horizontal length of that road that's on the top of this map. And this is just kind of show you how drone deploy works. When I show up to a spot, I open up the application and it brings up the most current GPS Google map from the sky, and then I draw lines around it, and like it says, and then it creates this pattern of going back and forth in the mapping, and I can tweak that a little bit to you can see the altitude on here is 149 feet. That's kind of about optimal for best resolution, but if I went up to the legal limit of 400 feet, I could do it in a lot less passes, but the result wouldn't be as good. And again, it's they've also have an application for using this for volume and a lot of different other things, like how much volume is a hole that you're flying over. The gold standard in mapping is if you want to actually add ground control points, and that's a more advanced use of GPS technology that you can integrate into your maps. I have found it necessary for most of my projects, but again, you can make these maps a lot more accurate if you want to put time into it. Oh, and Drone Deploy also does limited 3D modeling. It's kind of interesting. I'm not sure what the applications for it are, but you kind of see this is one of them where this is our horse barn. Here's a drone of a drone. It's another couple people on campus are using drones for infrared mapping of alfalfa. Again, this is me flying my drone over their drone. This is just kind of the showing of about every 2 weeks I go and do our turf farm, so you can kind of see the changes over the season. It's coming. I'm recording this in October now, and I'll probably wrap it up, but I started in March. You can kind of see the change over time. If you look really closely, they knew that I was doing this, and they wrote "See well" in the middle of one of the turf plots. So we have our first, overhead branding. This is Drone Deploy mapping prices in case you're interested. I had the pro version. They give us a little discount for academia. I don't know if they'll still do that, but for me, it's about $70 a month. The major competition for Drone Deploy is Pix 4D Mapper, and you argue with people on which one is better. Of course, the Pix 4D people think theirs is better. It has a little more control because you do some of the editing on your desktop with an application, whereas Drone Deploy is totally cloud driven. Once you take your photos on the drone, you upload them to Drone Deploy, and depending on how many photos, 2 or 3 hours later, you get a very detailed map. Pix4D, again, even with an educational discount, is quite a bit more expensive. And I really haven't noticed much difference in, I got the trial version of Pix4D and did some imaging, and I can hardly tell the difference. Again, just more of our other drones. This is another thing that Drone Deploy can do with NDVI. Again, I'm not going to pretend I know how to interpret NDVI, but the fact that you can do this with a regular camera that would usually cost about $20,000 is kind of amazing. And just another version of NDVI. These are all little tiny turf plots you can look at. And this is just kind of a comparison between Drone Deploy and Pix4D of the same data set. Can't really see too much difference. Actually, Pix4D looks like it's got more shadows than Drone Deploy. So that's about it. I got it down to a little shorter than I would have done it at ACE, and hope you've enjoyed this. If you have any questions, my email address is right there, dennis.hinkamp@usu.edu. Thank you.